One of my favorite things that I always think about is that health is wealth. So I remember just telling myself it's about time to make a change for myself. So if I'm going to be speaking about health, I got to take care of my own health too at the same time.
Hey everyone, welcome to Architecture Beyond, the podcast that explores the intersection of architecture and everything else in the world. I'm your host, Brandon Aaron Gibbs, and today we have a special guest joining us, Kempson Onadeko, an MBA and personal trainer, nutritionist, and health promoter extraordinaire. Currently completing his doctorate at the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston, Kempson brings a passion for helping individuals on the go live their best lives, bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. Get ready to dive into captivating conversations as we discover how architects and professionals can cultivate a balanced lifestyle, achieve peak fitness, physical fitness, and nourish their minds and bodies. Welcome to the show, Kempson.
Yes, thank you.
Can you give us a little bit of background, how you got into public health and how you got your start with that enthusiasm?
Honestly, I would say I got into this field by accident because at first I was pursuing getting my medical degree. So going through the medical school route, all of that. And then I realized that it was just not for me. I was struggling with the MCAT exam, studying all those different things. And it was one day when my dad just gave me a call. This was after I graduated college and everything. And it was like, well, why not try public health? Maybe you can utilize that to get into medical school. And ever since I interviewed with the director, from there, I just love the field of public health. And I totally was like, I'm not going back to medical school and just totally just pursuing public health. And I think the biggest thing for me was that I actually felt I had a purpose with public health compared to just doing the regular medical school route, and just felt great about it, knowing especially be able to impact communities. That was the main thing that really sparked my interest.
So you grew up in which state, sort of what's your background sort of locally, and how did that influence your decision for health and those options?
I grew up in Nashville, specifically southeast part of Nashville, in a city called Antioch. It's very multicultural based, and I would actually say that my drive came from my parents. The two of them, of course, both of them, coming from outside the country, Nigeria and the Caribbean, they were big on making sure that they serve. And so that same type of service is in me to this very day. I give my all. And then also, too, I would say through sports as well. I played football, basketball, baseball, soccer. I pretty much played everything. But I've always learned that whenever you have a goal, give your all to be able to achieve that goal. So I would say, yeah, my parents, that drive, and then also do sports, and it's still within me to this very day. So yeah, I would say that's what got me passionate about this field.
So as architects, sort of our field, we're always thinking about, okay, a facility is needed to be designed for, public health, but at the same time, what does it mean for you as someone in it? Because that's the type that affects everyone. What does it mean for you, sort of as sort of professional definition of public health?
I would say public health is creating access for a person or for people. Particularly for public health, it's more for people. But from an individual perspective, I'll say it's for a person. And the reason why I say access is because, we could have access to like basic everyday needs. So like food, water, shelter, but then also too, you can have access to your actual career and being able to have like that ability to be able to go to school, being able to get the training needed. And then even in terms of just being around family. So it's just that accessibility to be able to achieve whatever it is that you do want to achieve. So it could be your dreams, could be with family, could be with friends, could be basic needs. But I would say public health creates that basic accessible need to be able to achieve for people.
Can you explain your current research role as a research assistant? I think that's sort of part of your doctorate program at the UT Health Science Center. And how does it contribute to promoting healthy cultures?
I'm a research assistant. And what I do is pretty much support any type of efforts for our research supervisor. So he does a lot of work, and it's in the field called implementation science. And so pretty much all it is making sure that organizations actually do what they say that they're going to do. And these are health organizations. And what we do is we get like what we'll call a program inventory. We'll do like get an idea of their methods or processes that they have. and then being able to map out that whole process. We call it logic mapping or logic model, and then being able to see like how exactly are they working. So providing that awareness of what companies actually need, and then also to be able to provide some recommendations. Our field is it's based a lot on theories and models that we use. So it's being able to help them through those theories and models on being able to see like how their organization operates. And another thing too, just to mention, is that there was a statistic not too long ago where it said it takes 17 years for an idea to go from research to practice. So you can imagine it's such a huge gap that's there. So we're there to be able to, make that gap smaller and making a smaller period of time from research into practice, especially for hospitals, health centers. It helps that process out.
But I think part of your dream and sort of meeting you and talking about it is definitely it's a little beyond the research world. And I think that's where I found like such interesting questions to ask. How did you get into sort of that personal journey of training and nutrition and sort of coaching others on that path?
It honestly, it started with me. There was a point where I was overweight. Just to be transparent, my highest weight, I think I was about 280 pounds at one point. And this is after football. And if people don't know about after you play, like especially a college sport, you're all in with that sport. But then once you leave that sport, it's like, what's next? So that's where I got to my highest weight. And, having to work through that, it was difficult. And then also, too, even with that, too, I was dealing with health challenges. There's a point where I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, even dealt with heat exhaustion at one point, which is one step from heat stroke. So once my pharmacy technician, upon picking up my medication, and she was like, you're too young to be taking meds. So I remember just telling myself, like, it's about time to make a change for myself. So that was convicting for me. And that's where I was like, let me pursue, it was public health at first. And then from there, I realized, like, also too, if I'm going to be speaking about health, I got to take care of my own health too at the same time. So it was public health first. And then I went into getting my personal training certification as well.
Do you know Kevin McCoy? He played for Vandy. He's part of Bethel World Outreach, and he sort of had a little bit of that similar journey, because I know I've seen him recently. He's definitely picked up fitness, but like after football, after a sport, like even I was doing running in undergraduate. Like after the sport, it's like a bit of a fall off if you don't keep it going. So I know definitely that experience. I find those sort of experiences. That's how you got into really delving that personal perspective while you're also researching how people can improve health. So I have a few questions sort of to help people in careers, people in the professions who are listening, who are, maybe they're going through their day-to-day lives, they're, in the office, and they're finding it hard to have that connect for their health goals. So I'll start out by asking, what are some practical strategies for incorporating nutrition first, healthy eating habits into a busy work schedule, especially, for busy architects and professionals?
I would say first things first is really just having a plan. Because when you have a plan, or another way of saying it is having a purpose, because when you have that plan, it sets things in motion. And then from there, too, is having those steps or objectives on how to be able to achieve whatever that goal or that purpose is. And with that, the biggest thing is with writing it down. I think writing it down is very much key. And then once you're able to write it down, it's being able to have that accountability. So whether it's having somebody else, family member, friend, coworker, whoever it is, or it could just be just looking at it regularly. For me, my alarm is actually, it says like, God dream. So being able to live out my dream each and every day, I constantly see that every morning that I wake up. So it's being able to have that constant accountability that you're able to see. And then lastly, it's just celebrating and resting at the same time. And the reason why I say this is because it's so easy to get caught up with the process. You're going through it, you're being disciplined in what you do. But if there's no celebration, if there's no time to be able to rest, then it makes it a little bit more difficult to be able to actually enjoy the process too at the same time. So yeah, I would say starting with there. And honestly, I would say a lot of times we are familiar with all the different health things that are out there, but just take it one thing at a time. So for instance, like me, I have water right next to me right here. So I'm always drinking water all the time. Or if I know I want to get in my protein, well, I'll make sure when I go to the grocery store getting like lean chicken. Well, chicken's already lean, but getting chicken or getting turkey, getting those basic products, but just doing it one thing at a time. And then same thing with fruits and vegetables. If I know that it's to lower my amount of sugar intake that I'm doing, I wouldn't recommend grapes because grapes they tend to be higher glycemic index. But thing is that if you do like sweet things though, at least start with grapes because then at least you could go from there and eating grapes in combination with something else that actually balances it out. There's more to that, but that's just a brief thing right there. So yeah, just keeping it simple, just follow that. So it's with that purpose, steps, how many steps to that purpose. Thirdly is having that accountability. And fourthly is being able to just celebrate and also to resting at the same time. And then just take it one step at a time.
I've talked about sort of that nutrition, but there's nutrition, there's exercise, and I suppose there's also sort of more of a mental focus. How would you sort of organize sort of the priorities of those three? And like, is there anything else? Because I definitely know I was reading for sure that we will definitely do a lot of workout. I have friends who will like say, I'll go to the gym before I ever stop eating less. However, that's obviously you're doing more work. How do you see those related, and what's the hierarchy, if you would put one there?
So I have this quote that I go by. I just made it up. I would say from the inside out. And it always starts from, I'll say, spiritual or, well, I'm a person of faith. So I would say it starts with my faith first. So being able to have that spiritual component or that purpose component first. Then from there into the mindset. Mindset is very much key because not only is it our thoughts, but it also too it influences our emotions. Our emotions follow along with our thoughts. And then from there, it goes into the physical aspect. And that's where I would say nutrition will come first, technically, because it's 80% of the process. And then 20% of it is the active part, the physically active part. Because one of the things I noticed, just bringing up certain trends that I noticed, is that a lot of times it seems like, well, I just go to the gym and, I try to eat a little bit healthy. I eat this, I eat that, and making sure I just work out, 2 hours. Go to the gym another day and, just constantly going through that process. But it's more of a haphazard process. The key thing is being able to start with purpose, start with the spirituality first, going into the mental part, telling yourself that you are worthy, that you are, I would say this fearfully and wonderfully made, that you are a masterpiece. And then going from there into those things that actually feed your soul. And then going to the nutrition part, taking care of your nutrition, and then from there into the physical activity part. And everything has to have a plan. So the spirit part, the mental part, nutrition, and then also the physical activity part.
That's good. That's good. So there's also, I think one thing that was influenced me in one of my firms I was working at, and it influenced the principal that I was working with as well. He had like a heart issue. And like, since that time, it's like, he has like now he has 5 kids. He was like wondering, hey, what do I do in this world? I have to be taking care of that. And so that sort of encouragement on his end. But I've been blessed not to have had any serious issues. But I have taken these periods to go and focus on my health. So I understand it's something that you're doing and you're continue doing. But I think those little small the small elements are going to help people figure out. So I have a few more questions sort of on that line of like getting those little things. But at the same time, afterwards, definitely we'll ask for some summaries for sure, because the idea is keeping it going is going to be the long one, because architects are very busy people. They have schedules. They have, this project stopped, this started, we're switching projects. There's deadlines. But yet, our bodies, we can't sacrifice our bodies. So my next question then is, so how can architects, professionals prioritize that physical activity with those demanding schedules, and what are some time efficient examples or exercises that we can incorporate into our routine?
So I would say one of the things it's about having a conviction about your health. One of my favorite things that I always think about is that health is wealth. So thinking about it from the opposite standpoint. So if you don't have health, then you're not able to have wealth. You're not able to be at your best within, especially the field of like whatever field it is. It could be architecture, it could be public health, it could be anything. But when you don't have your health, you're not able to have that wealth, not just monetary, but in terms of what you're able to do. So thinking about it from that standpoint of health is wealth, and then also too, it's being able to have that. Again, I go back to having that plan of how exactly, or I will say it this way: it's thinking about how much does your health matter to you. Thinking about who matters to you. Do you want to be there for your wife? Do you want to be there for your child? Do you want to be there for this person or that person? Or where would you like to see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? And then it's also too, after that, having that plan to be able to be there for that person, having that plan to be able to be there in the next 5, 10 years, 15 years. And it's being able to, so just like how we have that plan for our regular workday, having that plan for our health. And I would say too, is just keeping it really simple. Because the thing is that for our workday, that's the main priority. But then for our health, it's just doing simple things, simple as just drinking water, just like I have this water here, or as simple as just making sure to be able to go to sleep at a good time and then waking up at a good time. So it's just simple things, one thing at a time, not changing up everything, just one thing at a time. And it can make a world of difference.
So now there's new trends, of course, working at home, where you can set up maybe your a treadmill right next to your desk. How about in that terms, or even like the gym? Because I know I found a gym that was right on the way home from my office a few years ago, and I always just try to have it on my path. Like that, I know you were saying like that 80-20, it's 20% versus the fitness. How does someone put in that workout time? Because the idea is you feel you're tired afterwards. So should you do it like after work, or should you do it in front of work? What is your opinion on how to fit that in?
I would say my personal opinion, because I've heard this before, whether I should do it morning, afternoon, sometimes even during lunch break. And I would say do it what works best for you. I personally like in the morning because that's when you first wake up in the morning, and that's where you get to be able to. It's called a hormetic stressor whenever we exercise. So what it is a stress upon the body, and then it helps produce benefits for your body. So starting out first thing in the morning, I like it in the morning because that's when your body is challenged, but then also too it produces those benefits early in the morning. And then, of course, as you go throughout the day, you're able to have that same energy as you go throughout the day. But then also, you mentioned a key point. A lot of people are working from home. And so me, myself, I actually work from home. So one of the things that I would recommend is work it into your schedule. So that time when you'll work and then take a lunch break, that lunch break could be a good period to be able to work out while at home, and just keeping it real simple. One of the things you could do is like 30 minutes, putting some good music on, whatever the music is, and setting forth over like 30 minutes, however long the lunch period is, and being able to work out to that song. So if it's like squats, for instance, that you want to work on, maybe for that whole song, to do squats, and then for like maybe 10 reps, and then after 10 reps, do a set of lunges right after that. And then after lunges, maybe it could be just working on the sit-ups, or it could be just knee lifts, things that are just simple. And then just do that for like 3 sets, and you have a full workout just within that one song, just by itself. And of course, there's going to be more songs to it, but I'm just providing a brief example of where, like, just pick some songs. Music is a key thing there. Pick some songs, do basic movements, squats, push-ups, sit-ups, Supermans, the basic movements. So like for your chest, triceps, usually push-ups. For back, usually Supermans are good, or what I call just lat pull downs, where you just pull your elbows down to your sides. from up position. For abs, you could do knee lifts, or you could do sit ups or crunches. I tend to prefer crunches a little bit more. For legs, there's squats, there's lunges. There's more to it, but I'm just keeping it real simple just for right now, just to just be able to keep it as simple as possible.
No, those are great. Like, I know in the office though, where you don't have a shower, a nice lunch walk, or even replacing a lunch walk or doing half, that's actually very useful. Just trying to fit it in is like always a challenge, but I think that's one of the ones I found. But at the same time, I always think about, if you don't have a gym or you don't want to take another shower, but maybe that's just maybe just have a quicker sort of routine. What would you recommend for if you want to sweat less? Like, is it just you reduce your intensity? Because if you still have that time, but you're just not able to go to a full shower.
That's definitely. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great point. So one of the things, and I'll even bring up what I'm doing right now. So I'm actually standing. I'm not sitting down. And then all throughout the day, each and every day during my work and everything, I'm always standing. I never sit down at all. And what that does include a standing.
You have a standing desk, right?
Yeah, I'm at a standing desk. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's just, simple stuff. So it could be using a standing desk and standing for most of the day. It could be just going out for a walk, especially if you're working from home. You have that lunch break period. You could always just go for a simple walk during that time. And as long as it's not too hot, you wouldn't really be sweating or anything like that. So just making sure to be as active throughout your day. So I think standing is the biggest thing.
So standing burns more calories.
Yes. It burns more calories. It actually keeps your mindset in a more active state rather than sitting down. So yeah, definitely doing that for sure.
Are the desk little bicycles that you can put on your desk, is that actually any good, or is that more for show?
I mean, you could. One of my colleagues, she actually does do that. And so whenever we have meetings or anything, you see her kind of moving a little bit with the desk bicycle. You could do that too. For me, it just looks a little awkward when you see somebody moving like that. So I tend to prefer just standing, and you might see me moving a little bit, but still at least you could tell that I'm, in tune.
Yeah, that's on my list, the standing desk. And I think that's definitely something to give a try, in addition to finding that little routine of a few sit-ups or push-ups. I think those are things that someone could just work into their schedule. But the standing desk sounds like a great one, because the architects, we have to be at that desk on that computer. Why not just burn more calories, And that's a great one.
Yeah. And also too, one more thing. Even while you're let's just say you're sitting down, right? There's actually ways to still even work your core while you're just even sitting there. So like if you wanted to just take like a 5-minute break, and I mean, it could be at your desk where you kind of push your chair back a little bit and just work on just lifting your toes off the ground, holding it there for like a couple seconds and placing it right back down, and just really working on your breathing, with breathing in, holding in tight, and then releasing your feet down to the ground. So just simple. It sounds funny, but it's just simple core movements, and it works your body out there at the same time.
Is that like the posture as well? Because I know, like, if you're sitting in a really bad posture, it's also anticlimactic.
Right. Yeah. Posture is another key thing too, especially for our shoulders. You probably heard of rounded shoulders before, where someone's shoulders are, rounded like this, right? So we want to work on chest up, and then of course shoulders down and back. And what that does is it actually is strengthening your upper back muscles to be able to keep your shoulders down and back. Because naturally what happens is that when our shoulders are rounded forward, it actually restricts a little bit more of our breathing. So even when we're talking, it restricts that a little bit more. And then also too, it can even create issues for our shoulders itself. Because we have a ball and socket. I won't go too much into it, but we have a ball and socket. And the more and more that is rounded forward, the more difficult it is to be able to raise that shoulder up. So that's why we always say down and back. And it allows you, especially to be able to talk regularly. That definitely helps out.
You're listening to Architecture Beyond. an exciting new podcast about life after architecture and the stories of those taking their gifts to impact the world beyond the studio. In this episode, we are talking with public health counselor and fitness coach Kempson Onadeko, as he shares tips to be healthier and get and stay in shape while working the busy life of a design professional. Great news! We've just launched the Iamthestudio merch shop, where you can find awesome products like Architecture Beyond branded t-shirts, sketchbooks, mugs and more to celebrate the beauty of architecture. Head to Iamthestudio and click shop to see our latest products while supplies last. This podcast is produced by Iamthestudio, a premium resource for training architecture and design professionals in the top industry software. If you need help with learning design software and techniques to a professional level, please follow the link on our page.
In the world of snacks, what are some nutritious snacks, convenient snack options that architects professionals can use to keep and get that energy throughout the day, sort of to build that energy without getting something that's not as healthy? Maybe like avoiding a Coke. What do we get?
So I would say keeping it as natural as possible. Today, unfortunately, there's this term called hyper palatable. What that means is that the food is so processed to where it's easily eaten. So we don't have to chew it anymore. It's just easily eaten. So you want something where it's always going to require you to be able to actually chew through it. And of course, I'm talking about healthy products there. In terms of the specifics on what it is, so it could be something as simple as like mixed nuts. And it's a round, pretty much a round table of the different nuts. So you could have like Brazil nuts, cashews, pistachios are on the top that you could ever have. Almonds, peanuts. Technically, peanuts are more of a seed, but it's included within the nuts family. So mixed nuts are definitely good. Fruits and vegetables, specifically more vegetables than fruits, especially if you're sitting down for most of the day. The reason why I say more veggies is because your pretty much your glycemic index, it wouldn't be going up and down throughout the day. Vegetables keep it nice and maintained, and you're getting that healthy fiber, vitamins, minerals, and also too water too. You're getting those healthy nutrients in. Fruits, you can do fruits, but I'll lean more towards like more of the berries. So those have like antioxidants. It's less effect upon your glycemic index. So like strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and I'm trying to remember if I'm leaving out any, but definitely the berries for sure. There's a new one called acai. That one's another good option. So if you have a refrigerator, so if you have like a refrigerator or anything, try to bring in those. And if you want a protein option, if you have a refrigerator, great. I would recommend like Greek yogurt. Other options could include like even chicken or turkey, and cooking that, cutting it up, and you could just eat that right then and there as a snack. If you don't have a refrigerator, lean more towards like the nuts or water, of course, and then some fruits and vegetables.
What about Smoothie King? Smoothie King has installed itself in a lot of gyms, but we know it's probably high calories. What is your take on something like that? Or
I always err on the side of caution with avoiding any type of outside foods. It's not to say we can't have them. We can have them, but you want to rely more upon what you make or what you get from the grocery store. When it comes to places like a Smoothie King or even a Subway, I always say do your research. Check out their nutrition facts. A lot of these places, they don't make it easy to be able to find, but look for that information. And I will guarantee you a lot of them usually is higher on carbs. And carbs are okay, but it depends on what types of carbs, because you have sugar and you have fiber in there. Those are the main carbs that they will show. And a lot of times it tends to be a lot of sugar, especially in those smoothies that are there. And, it sounds healthy, and they do have some healthier options, but the biggest thing is just check the nutrition facts for yourself. Usually carbs, you want to keep that, specifically sugar, mainly sugar. You want to keep that as low as possible. But more protein, you want to keep that higher up, and then your unsaturated fats.
I mentioned the protein shake because it's similar to like some protein with water, like a protein shake, but I think Smoothie King adds a lot of sugar and carbohydrates, which is why it tastes great, but at the same time, it's probably reducing the effectiveness of a workout. Do you recommend any protein shakes after more muscle workout? Like if you're doing consistent or doing like an hour long muscle workout.
There's a variety of different protein shakes that are out there. I recommend, of course, always getting the grocery store one. And I would say, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, but pretty much, I think Amazon's actually a good source. So there's like vegan protein shakes. GNC is possible too. But if you're worried about the pricing, I would recommend going towards Amazon for that. 'Cause I know GNC could be a little bit higher. But yeah, so definitely looking at like there's vegan, there's plant-based, and you'll have like it's called whey by itself. So the whey complete protein shake, and then there's a protein isolate. And you're probably wondering what's the difference between all of them. So of course, vegan, of course, is obviously vegan. Plant-based is obviously plant-based, or vegetarian, I mean. And then the whey, it's pretty much like the milk that we'll normally get from a cow, but it's in dry form. And then the protein isolate is where they take out all the extra like things that are normally included within milk. So you have just the protein by itself. And so like if you do have like any, especially lactose intolerance, I would recommend vegan, the vegetarian, or the isolate. The whey, it's more heavier on the stomach. It's going to affect you pretty good, especially if you have lactose intolerance. But those tend to be good options. Now, if you're looking for one with like all the nutrients, so the whey, the vegan and the plant does have it too. I recommend more the whey because the animal one, especially vitamin B12, that's one of the main ingredients that you do get with the animal-based protein compared to like vegan and the vegetarian one. So variety of options out there, but just keep it simple. Look at nutrition facts and look for especially protein being at the highest, carbs being lower.
Are there any particular times that you would recommend for like, hey, either between eating or maybe stop eating at this time? Because I know sometimes if an architect we work into the night, it's like if you keep snacking, you're going to get into a very bad habit and you're just starting to see your diet going down. What would you recommend in terms of that timing aspect?
I would say one rule of thumb, because I remember hearing just now about working into the night. It's keeping in mind of the time that you'll go to bed. So it's having that set time. And then keeping your last meal about, I would say about 2 to 4 hours before you go to sleep. So for instance, if you go to sleep at like 10 o'clock, even 11 o'clock, you want your last meal to be at like 7 o'clock, for instance. Because what happens is that if you're eating on a full stomach, one of the things that can happen is heartburn because that food didn't fully digest and your digestive system is still trying to work while you're sleeping. And that creates a lot of issues there because, of course, heartburn could come up, acid reflux, various things such as that. So definitely keeping that window of time prior to going to bed with your last meal. And then in terms of just eating throughout the day, I would say it varies. I tend to prefer more like a 2 to 3 hour period in between meals, even 4 hours, actually 2 to 4 hour period in between meals. Because it gives your body to be able to digest that food, get the nutrients out to your different cells all throughout your body, and then giving that body like a rest period. It's pretty much a fast for your body to be able to rest, and then finally coming back to the next meal. I actually go through the process, and this is one of the things that's been talked about a little bit more is intermittent fasting. Me, myself, and my wife do it, where our last meal is normally at the very latest 7 o'clock. And then we don't eat the next day until we take it to the extreme a little bit, but I would say until 12 p.m. the next day. I know a lot of people are like, that's a long time. But you could do earlier. You could have your last meal at 7 p.m. and then eat your next meal at like 7 a.m. So at least that's a 12-hour fast. And what that does is that it helps get your body into a more fat-burning state. So when it comes to your first meal, and this is a whole nother topic too, but pretty much you're already in the fat burning state, and whatever your body had last, that's what it's burning off, and that's what you're utilizing for your first energy source as you start the day off.
My wife just gave birth and we have our first child. Do you have any recommendations for also those women who've just given birth? Like how do they recover as well? Because I've seen in the architecture industry definitely some major things done by women who've just had children. But the idea is that they want to get back, and I know fitness it might be lower on the list, but it is something important because obviously your health is your wealth. So, what would you recommend for those who have just given birth?
It's interesting because I actually used to be a part of a breastfeeding research program a couple years ago now. But breastfeeding is actually calorie burning. So I definitely recommend breastfeeding for sure. If you're still in that breastfeeding stage, I know normally it's about up to about 2 years roughly, um, where they're normally in breastfeeding. So I would recommend breastfeeding for sure. And again, just taking the simple, and also too, according to doctor's orders. So definitely listen to the doctor on what your body can do. Because if some women have had like a C-section or anything, any type of complications, keeping that in mind too at the same time. And that's where eating actually is a key part. Because even if you're not really moving around as much, your body's still going to be burning calories even while you're resting. But it's making sure to eat the right foods during that time. But in terms of movement, though, just keeping it real simple. So it could be just going outside with the baby. So it doesn't have to be a jogging stroller, but having the baby like in the stroller and then just pushing the baby down on the sidewalk. Or even just like if you don't have a sidewalk, if you just have just around your home, walking around with your baby in your arms and then just walking around just throughout the house or even throughout the apartment or simply just having fun, with your baby, when it comes to like having fun with them, picking them up, pushing them up. It's actually like they're actually a weight. So you could do for girls.
My sister, so now she's definitely one of the more high productivity mothers out there. So she has it where she's traded off. So she's a doctor. When she's at work, then when she comes home, she helps. It's sort of that trade off. I guess that's a productivity that's a little more than just what you're eating. But I guess what sort of things would pregnant women be focused on eating to keep that or to return back to a better shape?
So definitely, again, fruits and vegetables are very much key. Because keeping in mind anything that's stress upon the body, especially pregnancy and then just having a baby, you have to consider like blood loss. You have to consider just even the stress upon the body itself. So definitely making sure to get in fruits, vegetables, protein definitely is key. Lean proteins at that. So like chicken, turkey, um, fish. I can't leave fish out there. Getting in those lean meats in are very much key because then it does help provide the essential nutrients that your body needs, which are proteins, which are the complex carbs. That's where the fruits and vegetables come into play. And then also to the healthy fats, especially the fats, because those are good for brain health. Those are good for our joints. Those are good just in terms of insulation for the body. So definitely making sure to get your nutrients in is very much key.
What would you recommend in terms of nutri- I guess nutritional supplements, vitamins? I know there's some like for memory boosting, multivitamin, especially as you get older. What sort of recommendations do you have sort of in that area?
Two main ones are multivitamins and fish oil. The reason why I say multivitamins is because a lot of times, and I think it's only like 5 or 10% of, and I think it's an American-based study where they get in the full nutrients of what we're supposed to receive. So you can imagine 90% to about 95% are not getting all the nutrients that we're supposed to have. So definitely getting in multivitamins, and I wouldn't recommend getting it from just the regular grocery store because a lot of times what happens is that when we ingest those, it's normally just sitting within our body, but it's not actually doing anything within our body. It could to a certain extent, but remember that product has been sitting on the shelf for like so long. So if it's been sitting there, how exactly is our body going to be utilizing it when we ingest it? So being able to find a good source for it. One of the websites I follow, it's Thrive Market, and they're known for having like healthy supplements. And it's more of a wholesale at that too. So definitely getting multivitamins from there. Fish oil too at the same time is another key thing I would recommend from there too. Because again, it's especially for brain health. Fish oil is good, and also too for our joints. It's definitely worthwhile. Those two are the basic. There's others. There's like lion's mane, which is the main thing that's good for brain health. It comes from mushrooms. It's a medicinal mushroom. There's so many others out there. MCT, which is medium chain triglycerides. That one's definitely good for energy. And some people, they get it in capsule form and they ingest it, or some people, they get it in like a liquid form. And you can add it to like soups or rice or anything like that. But the basic two, let's think of the basic two for right now is just multivitamins and fish oil.
Yeah, I have my mix now. I feel that when I was studying for licensure, it was so busy, and it was like I had to use my mind and I use my body, and it's like I found like I need that multivitamin because I was using things for fitness as well. So like Megamin has a great sort of fitness multivitamin as well. So it's like that's one thing I think that is really valuable, and it's very useful seeing that can be played in, and then you can move on when you go from that basic level of multivitamin and that omega. Those are really good. Sorry, I don't want to go too much over time. Sort of aside, I'm going to be wrapping it up because I was focusing on definitely just flowing with some of the questions that just sort of naturally present. There's some questions people might have. So, what are some common misconceptions or myths about fitness and nutrition that you often encounter? How do you educate your clients and debunk those misconceptions?
I think the biggest one, it's always starting from the outside in. It's like if I have love handles, how exactly do I work those love handles off? Or if I still have, similar to what we were talking about earlier, if I still have the post-pregnancy weight or the postpartum weight, how exactly did I work that off? And then being so focused on the outward part. And the biggest thing with fitness, or even just looking on social media and seeing like all the different people, influencers out there, and like just being so intrigued by how their body looks and them saying you could just do squats for this many times and you'll have a body looking like this. But the issue with that is that it's so much from the outside in. And that's why I always say, focus on the inside out, to remember to feed your spirit first, to remember to feed your soul, to remember to feed, of course, soul involves your mind, and then your body. Because when you have the right mindset, when you have the right purpose, that's when the body is the natural byproduct of that. And then also too, I would say with also not being so hard on ourselves. I think we've learned, especially over the last couple of years, that we can't be in all places at all times. And so it's being able to lessen the stress on ourselves and being able to do what we can within a period of time. I'm not going to say a full day, but just within a period of time and I'm in the faith that God allows us to be able to operate in.
That's very interesting to focus on not just comparing, but really having that personal balance, not just being pressured by something. I think that's really important. So how do you stay up to date with the latest research and trends in the field of fitness and nutrition? And I guess how would viewers sort of do that as maybe non-health professionals? Like how do they get the best information?
It's interesting. I actually just mentioned this to my class a couple of weeks ago. So there's a website called healthline.com, and it consists of nutritionists, registered dietitians, actual medical doctors who are in the field, and they write various articles about various different nutrition, physical activity, even just meditation and relaxation. So they write about that all the time. And the medical doctors who are there, or various different health professionals, they actually review the information. So it's almost like a journal, but they make sure to review that information with the different health professionals who are there.
Okay, I'll put those in the link so people can definitely have access to those. Because definitely we want to be on the go. We need to definitely be checking back and make sure that we're keeping that up to date. Can you share, I guess, and finally, some success stories or example like professionals who are, working and improving their health despite the challenges of work schedules, sort of to inspire people, because we want to see that it's possible. What can you sort of share, sort of those journeys?
I'll go back to one of my clients. This was back probably around like 2020. So right around the time when pandemic first started. But I remember I was working with him for a couple months, and one of his goals was to be able to pretty much be more healthy, and then especially being able to do like pull-ups and things like that. And keeping in mind too that he is a family man too. He has a wife, he has some kids, and he also has his job. And he just moved to like Nashville, kind of Tennessee area shortly before, and so he's dealing with different stressors, that he has to deal with, and being able to see him just progress. There was a time period where he was going to actually leave, and be like, well, it's been great working with you, but he stuck with it. And through his consistency, he actually was, and this is right before the pandemic happened, before everything shut down. I actually saw him, doing pull-ups and being able to use this in the gym. So using like battle ropes and different things like that. So it was definitely a pleasure to be able to see that. And even among my class that I teach now, I think I've been working with them since probably 2017, maybe. But this class has started up in 2020, and being able to see their progress, and they're all different ages. So they could be, maybe in school, or they could be all the way up to, of course, working age, and being able to just see them progress in terms of like doing challenging push-ups. I might have them do a push-up hold or something like that, and just seeing them progress. And I know it's just a little bit more abstract right now, but being able to just hear of, them doing push-ups, and they never would have thought of doing push-ups regularly, or doing Supermans regularly, and never thought of doing Supermans before regularly. I would say those are some of the success stories that have stood out.
So you're definitely recommending, if people can, to do training and get classes, because definitely that individual side will be empowered from your point of view.
Yeah, I would say, and let me clarify. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like in a gym, and it doesn't have to necessarily be within like a fitness setting or anything like that. But simply, I think the key thing is being able to have accountability partners around you, and then being able to do whatever works best for your group. So if it be just walking around, like even around my neighborhood, I actually have, I call them seasoned, but I have some seasoned neighbors who actually take walks around the neighborhood regularly. And it's just amazing to be able to see. I look over and I'll just wave. I'm like, wow, and you can tell they're seasoned, but they just do those regular walks all the time. So yeah, it's just whatever works best. It could be doing Zumba. That's actually how I got started out, was seeing a Zumba class, being able to see like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then being able to enjoy being around that community.
I do Taibo, so I get it. Yeah, just to be doing that and you're doing that is great. Those have been great insights that you've been sharing with the audience, with me today, Kempson. What's the next thing for Kempson, and sort of where can people find out either your work you're working on, or that you sort of see the next thing from in fitness?
So next thing, very first and foremost, is graduating with my doctorate degree in public health. My goal is to have that done within the next year. So Lord willing, by 2024, I will be graduating. And then from there also too is being able to start up more with my personal training business, and being able to work with people regularly, especially one-on-one, or it could be in groups, and being able to do that. And then also too, if anyone did want to contact me at this very moment, my email, it is comohealth@gmail.com, and I could be able to follow up with them through that. Currently what I do now is a free class that they can be able to take. And what we do is we work out every Saturday. It's at 9:15 every Saturday. And I provide some brief health information to be able to pretty much take with them after working out hard and sweating and everything. But yeah, so pretty much that free class is on Saturdays, 9:15 Central Standard Time. And then if they want to contact me, it's Como Health.
In the Houston area.
Yes, in the Houston area. But they can take it from anywhere.
It's great. So thanks a lot for joining us, Kempson. We got a lot out of it, and we'll have links for the audience in the views. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And we'll see you in the next interview for Architecture Beyond. Thanks for joining me. This has again been Brandon, your host. We'll see you in the next one.
It was great to hear important health insights for design professionals this episode from public health professional Kempson Onadeko. Be sure to stay tuned on Instagram and LinkedIn for more great health tips for a busy life. If you are interested in learning more about the newest design software and techniques, visit our sponsor Iamthestudio at Iamthestudio.com and sign up with our newsletter This Week in Design. In our next episode, we will go through the SketchUp guide for schematic design, an informative overview of the capabilities and limitations for the leading 3D modeler, and its benefits for design firm productivity. Be sure to check it out.
This has been Brandon and the Architecture Beyond crew. Catch you in the next episode.